It's the live stream. Hello, everyone. We've got a new show and a patron. Patron, what's it? You know, the things you reckon. That's the thing we do. And also, we've got lots of news and stuff. And this is the pre-show, but it is the full show. So just be aware that I have relented. I have fully given in, and we're doing full shows. But we're not going to do cut-ups, because we then try to go into the YouTube editor and cut and trim it so that it starts at the start point. Unfortunately, a lot of the time, YouTube just doesn't let us do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to do timestamps. And I've resisted doing that for a while because, you know, when you finish the show, it's sometimes 11 o'clock at night. You finish all the editing and then you go, right, now I've got to go through and do timestamps. Okay, I yield. I'm going to do that because I'm up doing the YouTube shorts and the TikToks and everything as well after the show. What it does mean is I get to be quite nap heavy. So I go nap heavy during the day. If I know I've got a stream coming up at night, I will schedule in a nap. And got to be honest, that's not the biggest sacrifice that I've ever had. I like napping. I used to nap during F1 races. F1 used to be a nap sport. And I thought, actually, that NASCAR would be my new nap sport. But I tuned in yesterday to watch the Bristol Oval, which used to be a dirt track. It used to be all dirt. Hello, by the way, live chat. Say hello. If you can hear us, if you can see us, say hello. I think I've started the stream. Yeah, it's up and running. There's over one person. Apparently on Twitch, if you've got like 10 people, you're in the top 1% of all Twitch people. Yeah, no, look at that. We've got dozens. There are dozens of you. But yeah, so yeah, I sat down to watch that, and they had their own chocolate tire, you know, Pirelli moment. There was that race in the early teens or something where suddenly the tires were dropping off a cliff. They didn't know if they would have enough. They ended up having 4 pit stops, and this is what happened at NASCAR yesterday. They were just absolutely running out of tires to the point that there was drivers going, "What? How slow can I go to actually make these tires last?" And they were just getting absolutely torn up. So now NASCAR is having that sort of same conversation that we were having around the Pirelli tyres when they first started. And I do remember I once refused a set of Pirelli tyres because I was that angry as a extant olden days F1 fan, where I was like, well, what's the point in this sport if tyres don't last? And now I can't imagine the sport where you have tyres that last forever. So it's definitely interesting watching from this side of the pond as they're arguing about it, and there's some commentators going, like there's Jeff Gluck going, well, I enjoyed it. It was a bit of chaos. I liked it. I enjoyed it. And to be honest, I've sat through some NASCAR races where the tyres are bulletproof and last forever, or they're only fuel limited, and you go, okay, where's the opportunity for strategy here? Really, the only opportunity comes with the stage racing, whether you push out for a stage or whether you give up a stage to go for the next stage. And then there were some tracks where we saw where they're having actually aero problems as well, where it was 2x2. I think the last one we went and watched, they were 2x2, and the second they came out to try and overtake, they hit a wall of air and they couldn't overtake. So really interesting to see NASCAR going through that as well. But, you know, that is a 4-hour sport. So I'm not saying I napped when I was at NASCAR, but I did go and walk around during the second stint. And in fact, Matt was there with me. Hello, Matt. Did you nap?
Hey there, Spanners.
Hello.
Yeah,
that's me.
Me napping? No, I'm certainly not old enough to just fall asleep sitting in my chair waiting for something to happen.
I imagine you're a nap-heavy guy. Whenever we've hung out, though, our schedules have always been like, boom, boom, a million things, 18-hour days. But I imagine that, yeah, you settle into a good old nap.
Yeah, usually not so much in the afternoon, but I like to have what I call my early evening nap.
Really? Sounds like a killer.
It is. It actually grew out of a very unhealthy work practice that I was never able to fully kick the habit up. But just basically, I like to have a snooze and then wake up for a couple of hours and goof around and then go to bed at stupid o'clock.
Yeah. Well, that was my army routine, is you'd finish like your normal, whatever, the 9 to 5 day with your PT and whatever, and you'd feel wiped. Go and have your dinner, go and have your scran, then go to the barracks and then just pass out, then wake up and then get on it. And then because you got on it, you're then tired for the next day, and it's a vicious cycle that goes round and round. But that's at least fun. our Stuffey's here, and Stuffey, you're having sleep issues for no fun at all because you've got a baby, and I told you not to.
I know. I'm in the trenches 2-3 months later than I should be right now because we have a very big baby who's doing all of the milestone things very late. She had to wait after me and the missus both ended our parental leave and went back to work, didn't she?
Oh my God,
So
that's the worst.
I'm literally looking right now at a baby monitor of her doing flips and roly-polies in bed while the missus is trying to get her to sleep while I do this podcast.
I'm going to be honest, Scott. When you were like, oh, she sleeps through the night. She's so good. She's so perfect. I was like, I hate you, man. I hate you.
I was just waiting for it to come back and bite me on the behind. And yeah, me and the missus have been properly going through it at the moment. So yeah, all fun.
But
it's all worth it, guys. It's all worth it.
When the baby naps, though, you can nap as well. So that's the thing.
I did that earlier, to be fair. I took me and the little one. When she napped, I napped. The missus started cleaning, and then we disappeared for a few hours to her dad's to watch the football, and she could clean the flat in peace because she gets very angry when she's cleaning.
Angry
if I'm in her
cleaning.
way,
Yeah.
and I don't do it up to her standard either.
No.
I try, but she
guys.
it's like she's a completely different person.
I've got to whisper this slightly because I don't want to get in trouble. But yesterday, I was going out to play some tennis, and I was like, right, before I go, I better square the house away just to make sure, I'm not in trouble, just getting ahead of stuff, right? And then, so I did like a full clean of the house, got the RoboVac going around the bottom, cleaned up, did all the dishes, everything. And then I got a message when I was at tennis going, oh yeah, I've just got back from work, had a tidy up, and then I'm off for the other job. And I was like, what do you mean had a tidy up? I tidied like as much as I could. And I don't think she was being sarky. I don't think it was a joke. I think she genuinely went in and went, this place needs sorting out. But that was my best effort.
It's never up to standard.
No, I'm with you. But the revenge is when her mum comes around, it's like a military inspection. Like we go around white gloving it, and then we go around, and within like half an hour, her mum is always there. Like, oh, she'll just get the bottle of spray and start going around. I'm like, ha! Now you know. Now you know.
Now you see where she learned it from, don't ya?
All right. Well, I tried to get my voice warmed up here, but I'm not feeling great, to be honest. The kids went to back to school last week, and so they all just came back with crud. You'll get this soon, Scott. This school
No, we've had it. She's had 2 weeks at nursery. Well, childminder.
Yeah.
First week, she picked up hand, foot, and mouth.
Oh, yeah, fantastic. That's a rite of passage. That's a rite of passage.
She's got over that, but she's instantly picked up a cold. So, yeah, when I said we're in the trenches, we're properly in it right now.
So, Matt, do I sound normal, chat? Do I sound normalish?
You sound pretty normalish to me.
That's fine.
You have felt
terrible.
better and sounded worse before.
Yeah, I feel terrible. So, like, I've been, my way of coping has been, like, bursts of work, bed. Burst of exercise, bed. Like, you could just sit in bed and go, but I'm like, no, I'm bored. I'm just sat here bored. So I'll just do a burst of like fitness exercise, and then I'll be like, ugh, and then melt. Burst of admin. Ugh. Tax season's not too far away. So yeah, burst of finances. Ugh, sleep.
Yeah, it's a nonstop palooza of fun when you have kids constantly dragging plague home from various other kids.
So I'm gonna just put the thing up there so you can see what the show is. Like, you shouldn't be able to. We shouldn't be chatting while we're doing this. You shouldn't be able to hear me have a slurp of drink. But that's the world we live in. At least I'm not drinking rosé. Like Scott.
At least you're not pouring.
I've got my rosé.
Pouring sounds much worse on Mike.
That is so Essex. Is there anywhere else in the world that drinks rosé? I think it's just Essex.
South of France.
Lots of parts of the world, Spanners, I'll let you know.
The French don't count. My son said to me, because he always hears me talking about invading France. He's like, Dad, I can't tell if you're serious about whether you would invade France or not. I'm like, just a little bit. Just a little. They're expecting it. It's not like it's not done. It's not like it's not a fair fight. They're going to defend themselves. You know what I mean? If anything, I think it would be rude to not invade France. They're expecting it. They've tidied up. They've got all their, well, I would say archers, but it's like quote unquote, isn't it? Archers. Yeah. Sorry, France. We don't have any French listeners. I'm all right. I'm completely fine.
If we did, we don't anymore.
I don't care. Bring it on. Right, anyway. Right, here we go. Record the show. You are listening to Missed Apex Podcast. We live F1. Hello. This is a news and mailbag show. I'm your host, Richard Reddy, but my friends call me Spanners. So, let's be friends. The key points of the news is that Ferrari are going aggressive for their 2026 engine. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. And we're also going to delude ourselves that there is a chance of a 2025 win. I beg your pardon. We're going to have a little bit of a rules chat as well because Carlos Sainz got his Dutch land penalty revoked. We also have a potential future F1 driver leaving a top-tier American series to go into the F2, and I don't like it. I think it's a bit rude. It's a little disrespectful to American motorsport. I also want to talk a little bit about Max at the Nordschleife. Should F1 drivers be doing more non-F1 racing? I thought it was really, really cool, actually, to go and see Verstappen going and doing some sports car racing. And we're also going to open the mailbag to see what you guys reckon. And yes, YouTube, you'll see that it is the full show. It's the full episode on the feed. I yield. Please stop emailing me. Full show it is. However, you do have to click the timestamp to get to the beginning of the show on the video. That's the payoff there. We are an independent podcast produced in the podcasting shed with the kind support of our patrons and partners. We aim to bring you a race review before your Monday morning commute. We might be wrong, but we're first. I'm joined in the shed by Matt Trumpets. Hello, Matt.
I've completed the e-learning. Can I have my A license for the Nordschleife too?
Well, I've seen you karting, Matt. I think you need a few more laps where I lead you around and you can follow the racing line. So it's quite funny that Verstappen, I think that is going to be the first story we talk about anyway, but Verstappen had to have 8 laps behind an instructor so that he could learn the racing lines around the Nordschleife.
Oh, he had to do e-learning and get it. He had to be instructed by an instructor. It's actually very impressive that at no point was a fit actually thrown about having to go through that. He just wanted to do it so badly.
And we're also joined by, what to say about this guy, esports commentator, YouTube watch-along maestro. It's Scott Stuffey Tuffy. Hello, Scott.
Well, your intros get better every single time, Spanners. Now, lovely to be here as we head into the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. And it's great to see some stewards finally have some common sense. It's a shame it's taken them 2 weeks after the incident took place, though.
Yeah. Obviously Carlos Sainz getting that penalty revoked. I think my first reaction was, well, follow your own rules. Like if you're going to revoke it and say, well, we're going to cancel that penalty because our rules are trash, then that's a big statement. But I think there might be some mitigating circumstances for that. So yeah, we'll certainly get to that. I think let's start with Max at the Nordschleife. And I think this is a really positive thing in the world of motorsport. So we can tend to get quite insular about F1, and we get accused by specifically Alex Brundle of being very F1 centric and not looking at other motorsports. I'll push back on that slightly because we're big Formula E fans. We've got a big MotoGP podcast that's gaining ground. Also, obviously, we're into NASCAR. We go out and see NASCAR races. But I get the point generally, which is it's very difficult really to get an F1 fan to sit down and watch a 6-hour endurance race. But not if you put Max Verstappen in your series. And that's what happened. Max Verstappen entered what used to be called VLN. I'm not sure what it is now, but it's basically like 6-hour endurance racing around the Nordschleife, which is known as the Green Hell. And if you don't know, it's part Grand Prix track, which was the old Nürburgring F1 Grand Prix track. And then it just disappears into the forest on this, like I think most of the top cars, it's like an 8-minute, 9-minute lap. And it's a really complicated track to learn. It's very popular on iRacing. Verstappen has done that. And you would think, obviously, if your series has Max Verstappen turning up wanting to do it, you'd say, this way, sir, please. Here's the very fastest car. Here's the fastest series. But they said, and they have strict rules. I'm sure they were very welcoming to Verstappen. They said you have to enter it as if you're a rookie. You have to pass the tests. You have to have 8 laps behind the instructor, and you have to qualify for your licenses. And absolutely 100% fair play to the series, because that's their rules. And being an F1 driver doesn't necessarily mean you're going to know the safest way around the Nordschleife. You're going to be good, but there's going to be things there. There's going to be quirks there. Go through the process. I respect that. And I respect that Verstappen went, yeah, 100%, I'm going to do that. Because other drivers, Matt, your compatriot, apparently Rossi, was like, no, that's beneath me to do the licenses. I'm not going to do it.
And one of the Schumachers as well.
Really?
Like several Formula One drivers, not the Schumacher, but his brother.
Yeah.
Have complained about, well, we're F1 drivers. Why should we have to go through this level of training? But the circuit itself is incredibly unique, is extremely dangerous. And I think the view of the rules committee, accepting the fact that they're German, of course, is that rules are rules and order must be established. We don't care who you are. You're not more important than our series and the safety of our other drivers. And so good for Max and good for them.
I'm sure they do care because look, they're not stupid. Look, if you look at the views and the attendance for that event, I'm sure that's broken all their records. But I bet they sat down and they had a meeting of going, look, you understand how motorsport works. Like Max Verstappen isn't a diva when it comes to this stuff. He does all the iRacing stuff and participates just like anybody else would. I'm sure they sat down at some point and said, hey, do you know what? We probably could bend the rules for a 4-time F1 champion, but it's going to look so much better if you go through it all. And I think it did. And so he went into, I don't know how much you know about this, Scott. Do you know the ins and outs of it? But he went into what is essentially like a GT4 car, but a detuned GT4.
Yes, so he went into Porsche Cayman. I'm not fully up to date with the Nordschleife and their processes and their license system. I keep a kind of a bit of an eye on it because Jimmy Broadbent, someone who I looked up to when I first started YouTube and sim racing, who is now doing real life racing, has raced around the Nordschleife. Stephen Brown, I think it is as well, Super GT, is also someone who's converted. They've gone through this. So I've been exposed to it through them primarily before Max. But he was in a detuned GT4 and he had to follow an instructor who was in a he had to do that. I think it was that I can't remember exactly what the process was, but he had to do an X amount of laps
8,
behind.
I think,
behind an instructor, and then he went into the race itself. I think it was, which was also part of the license test, which was detuned. But he qualified so far up. I think it was like people saw the start of the race, and he immediately got overtaken by, of course, the untuned GT3s or GT4s. But it's great. Touching on Max himself, though, it just shows that he hasn't kicked up a fuss. He's shown the respect that the process deserves, and fair play to him.
Yeah. What happened is, he qualified. He had this detuned car. So the other cars had a 400 brake horsepower. He had 300. And obviously, he's quite a good race driver. And I would say the field there is mixed. So you will have some quote unquote professional drivers, but obviously no one who's made it to the top tier of single seaters. And then you've got a lot of gentleman drivers, people who have bought their race cars. And I don't think it's any disrespect to say it's not their full-time job. These are hobbyists. And you can be a professional amateur, if that makes sense. Like you can be someone who really approaches their hobby in a good way, in a serious way. And I fully respect, almost like, there's some people who go, yeah, I'm an accountant, but the thing I really care about is golf. Like you can take your hobby super seriously, but obviously they're not going to be Verstappen standard. So he was a full, I think, a minute ahead over that 8-minute lap. He's like not a minute, that's stupid, isn't it? He was like seconds ahead in class. So he was top of his class by a long way and out-qualified a bunch of the guys who had 400 brake horsepower. But as soon as they set off on the line, he then falls down the field.
It was wet qualifying, and I believe you were correct. He was over a minute ahead of the rest of the detuned Caymans because there was a Class B where you're trying to get your
so
Class
it was a
A
minute.
license. That's what Max wanted in the qualifying.
No, it can't have
in the
been
race.
a minute.
I don't know. So Max got first qualified for his Class B license. And then the race that he did was to qualify for a Class A license that lets him drive the GT3 cars at the Nordschleife. And that was the one where he got overtaken on his way to doing 14 laps in the race. And it was actually, there was a bit of controversy here because he needed to have two separate starts. He had a second car he was going to drive, but his teammates wrecked it in qualifying and it didn't start the race. So the rules committee actually had to decide that that counted as an entry for him and was classified. And therefore he did get granted his Class A license. So maybe a little bit of the max helped him out there.
Well, to be fair, he's clearly shown in even the first instance that he is more than capable. So I think that little buy for the rules committee, no one is really going to kick too much of a fuss up about. But what it's done is that it has massively exposed another great form of motorsports. And we, unfortunately, in the modern era of F1, we don't get too many F1 drivers breaking away to other motorsports now. It used to be kind of like a yearly tradition where it was, okay, which F1 driver is going to be participating in 24-hour Le Mans this year? We had Nico Hülkenberg win it. We had Fernando Alonso. Okay, he won it when he retired from F1, but we've had current F1 drivers in the middle of the season do these events. But because of how, unfortunately, the calendar has expanded now, there's not a lot of opportunity for them to get time off to do these.
And yeah, this used to be a lot more of a thing. A large number of Formula One drivers used to always go and do like Daytona and Sebring and stuff like that. And you really don't see it nearly as much anymore. And I think it's one of those weird things where I think it's not only going to be good for Formula One, but I think it's going to be good for those other series too, because they don't really compete with each other in the way you would normally worry about if you were like, say, a business person, which most decidedly I am not.
Okay, so Pete in the Patreon chat says, this seems like a very Max-centric podcast. Might have to send an email. Hey, look, Max is out there doing some ambassador work for F1 as well. You know, when we talk about the effect that Lewis Hamilton has by being a superstar, this is an incredibly positive step to kind of go, I can step out of the bubble of being an F1 driver. And I wonder if not being in the title fight, although the maths isn't dead on that, technically he could be in. If any team is going to pull out a car that can suddenly challenge, it's Red Bull. But I wonder if being technically out the fight was the thing that made him go, bored now. I've had 4 years of fighting for the world title. And the second it doesn't look like there's a title on his line, it's like, nah, F1's lame. I'm going to go and play bat and ball. I'm going to enter a ping pong tournament.
I love that theory because I think you're absolutely right. Maybe not 100% of the reason. I think he's always wanted to do this. You can see it because, again, you mentioned his iRacing, and he does these sorts of races all the time. I think he's always loved sports car racing because it's close wheel-to-wheel combat. You can hit people a lot more without getting penalties. You know what I mean.
There's also the team element as well. Now, yes, everyone talks about F1. Oh, the team. But really, it's the individual in that car on their own. And the Drivers' Championship is that individual. Yes, you have the constructors, but it's not quite the same. Whereas in endurance racing in particular, you're racing with teammates. You're egging on your teammates to do well. And if you watch any of Max's streams online, like when they're doing these events, he loves that. He loves that team element. And speaking for myself as well, used to be a golfer. And I remember every year playing kind of like local team events. It's such an individual sport, but when you come to play these team events, the same in professional, when they play the Ryder Cup in a couple of weeks' time, it's so much more emotional for them, so much more enjoyable winning as a team when your day-to-day role and your main job is so individual. And I think Max really gets something from that.
Were you a golf coach at any point?
Yes.
Matt, how are we not getting Stuffey out on our golf?
the aforementioned child, I believe, is
yeah.
the main
Okay.
issue. But yeah, definitely, I want to see him and Summers on the same course for sure.
Yes, you, me, Stuffey, and Summers. We will lie to your magnificent partner for you, Stuffey. We will just we'll full on lie that it's
Sounds like a great Saturday afternoon at some point.
Oh, it's a paid gig. It's a paid gig. He's got to. He's got to do it. This is vital, Missed Apex stuff.
You know, if we film any of it and put
It's
it
content.
as content,
It's
then
taxable.
technically that counts as a job.
Yep, and it's tax deductible. So I wonder then, generally, should we see more F1 drivers doing more things? So I think there was a period where all the F1 drivers were doing the Race of Champions, for example. And I feel like we used to see them in karts more often. We had Ollie Behrman, actually deserves a shout out in this topic as well. He went and did some local karting somewhere. And if someone in the chat can tell me where that was, I'm not sure. But he spent ages.
Daytona.
Where was it?
It was Daytona. It was for a quadrant video where he went undercover.
Daytona, which one?
Don't know. Is there any? I think there's only one Daytona, isn't there? Is it towards Milton Keynes?
No, they've got 4. It's not an advert for Daytona, but they've got 4 tracks as well. But yeah, the Milton Keynes one is a fantastic track. It's too expensive at the moment. Please reduce your prices so Missed Apex can go and do an event there. But what was the story? He went and he couldn't beat the lap record, so he just pounded it until he did, and then the kid came back and beat Behrman again.
I can't remember. I haven't watched the video totally, but they put him under makeup or something, and he was asking questions of people of like, oh, what's this? What's the lap record here, and things like that. And
nice.
Yeah. He ended up beating everyone from last.
But I think some of the problem is like there's a bit of pride involved in it as well. So if you go and do another series and it doesn't go well, does that affect your reputation in Formula One? Does that affect your marketability in Formula One?
I think you're right. I don't think so much pride. I think a lot of it comes down to contracts. Max Verstappen, he has the pull or the power to say to Red Bull, if they go, no, you're not going to do that, to tell them to do one, respectfully. And other drivers say, I don't know, the one that comes to my mind, let's say the junior Red Bull drivers, Liam Lawson and Isaac Hadjar, they are beholden, no doubt, to contracts and to, yes, the PR side of things, the media, the optics behind it all. And the top drivers can do it. So I imagine there's a lot of contracts that state that they can't do certain things, like extreme sports, that some sports people aren't allowed to do extreme sports in their time.
Yeah,
I remember
Lewis said that at McLaren as well, I think.
Yeah, going back to golf. I remember when I worked at the golf club when I was doing it as a job, I had lots of pro footballers come in and they couldn't play without a buggy because the club wouldn't allow it. The stipulation was they have to play with buggies because they're not allowed to walk and do additional exercise.
Extra carrying as well. By the way, Tim Rudd in our live chat says it was in Varberg in Sweden. And that's Scandinavian, so I'm sure it's Varberg or something like that. Matt?
I was going to go with the safety aspect of it, because certainly you can look at what happened at Kubica rallying and see that there's probably a reason this gets written in. But I also am going to point out Lewis Hamilton trading bikes with Valentino Rossi and riding a MotoGP bike around Silverstone and crashing it at one point to the point where Rossi was like, yeah, I was genuinely impressed at the level of craziness Lewis brought to the motorbike.
Yeah, and thing is as well, we had didn't we have Lewis Hamilton with Tony Stewart in NASCAR? He went and drove a NASCAR as well, and so it's nice seeing that kind of stuff. But if you were to go right, Lewis Hamilton is going to go and do a NASCAR oval, during the summer break, and he's going to, because they do that in NASCAR. They had Juan Pablo Montoya jump in the 50 car at 23:11, and you go, if Lewis said he wanted to do it, I'm pretty sure. From talking to them, I'm pretty sure that they would let him in the car, like they would.
They'd find an entry, yeah,
they would, and that's something you can do. You can guest in those series. But I think like when Lewis was asked about would you do IndyCar oval, he went no, that's crazy, dangerous, and he's right, it is. But yeah, I do think there's a reputation thing because F1 uniquely. That's not uniquely, but it's not a spec series. It's not a spec series. So a lot of the mystery is shrouded around what the driver could actually do if they were in a different car. And F1 is a series of prize fights. So you go into a team and you go and you try and beat your teammate, and then your stock rises. You beat another teammate, then you get picked for a big team. You become the number one driver there. You go and win your world title. If we were to do an F1 yearly karting event, where you go, okay, we're all in equally ballasted, weighted carts, otherwise Yuki would win, and then we'll go around, and then suddenly you notice, oh, well, Bortoletto's clear of that field, and actually all the guys in the top teams are trash. That would ruin a lot of the mystery and the aura around F1.
I think one thing for certain is that the other forms of motorsport would love more Formula One drivers to participate in one-off events, because it just brings in so many eyeballs, because so many people across the world, the only form of motorsport they follow is F1. They don't know other forms of motorsport exist. So, yeah, I mean, remember when Fernando Alonso participated in IndyCar, chasing the Triple Crown, and I'm sure he may still go for it once he leaves F1, because he's done it a few times. And I myself was one of those people. I never really tuned into the IndyCar 500, but because I knew someone I knew from F1 was racing in it, I had someone to root for. And that's what these motorsports need. And I think it'd just be good for motorsport in general if, teams let their drivers do it. I'm sure there's more that do, but it all comes back down to money.
So basically you're saying in Formula One drivers in motorsports are just like the top influencers in Instagram or TikTok. All the motorsports want them in the paddock just so the eyeballs show up.
If they could remove a little bit of the pride or introduce a bit more understanding, I think it could work. So yeah, I don't think you could have all the F1 drivers like, okay, right, we're going to do F3 spec cars around Monaco to make Monaco a thing. I think that would really hurt F1 as a sport. But one-offs. So one-offs, if you kind of just go, okay, let's have Antonelli go and do a brick car race on a dirt oval and have people understand that even though Antonelli's great in single-seaters, it's a completely different sport. So it's like saying, if who's a top golfer? Rory McIlroy? But you go, right, he's going to go and enter the long drive competition. But don't expect him to win because he's not a long drive specialist. Or he can go out with Spanner's family and do their mini golf competitions. You go, yeah, he's not going to win that because Spanners is the champion of that.
It's funny you touched on it. There was actually a golfer who did try that.
Oh,
Bryson
really?
DeChambeau. He went into and he got close to winning. I don't think he won. But touching on another driver trying another form of discipline, it was Liam Lawson. He did rallying. It was only a rally demonstration at Goodwood Festival of Speed. Right. Red Bull had one of their drivers there. There's a great video on it. And after only like a couple of laps, this little circuit, he was, I think, 1 second off of the pro rally driver. And the pro rally driver was super impressed at how quick he picked it up. And so it just shows that I think it's great to just showcase that these drivers aren't just great in F1 single seaters. They're great in four wheels in general and sometimes two.
And if the Mighty Ducks has taught us anything, it's that sometimes you need to get out of your normal routine and just go and play some street hockey and go and do just something different. And you go, if there's a driver that is struggling and having a bit of a bad time, why not go and send Stroll to go off and do some karting or go and do some dirt stuff? And ultimately, Matt, I think your Robert Kubica example is probably a lot of the reason why stuff doesn't happen. But also, can we just be honest that rally is insane? So we go and do some motorsport, but not the absolutely bonkers ones. So obviously don't go and do rally. Rally is crazy. Have you seen those guys? When they have a big crash, they're like, easy left, easy right, and then they start flipping over the trees, and then they land, and they go, we're still, start the engine, pull in the clutch, go. And like, they're psychopaths. So yeah, don't do that. Don't go and do MotoGP. Did you see, who was the guy that his brakes failed recently at like 200 kilometers an hour? His brakes failed completely, so he just threw himself off the bike. And then the bike went into the barrier and just exploded.
Jack Miller at Suzuka.
Are you sure? Yeah. Was it not Vinales?
Maybe it was Vinales, but the one I'm thinking of with the bike going up into the stands was.
Oh no!
I'm pretty sure that was Jack Miller.
No,
Suzuka.
This one was he pulled the brakes, nothing happened. Realized, oh my god, we're going to the barrier. Threw himself off, and then when the bike went into the barrier and exploded, he ran up to it and he was upset that the bike was unrideable. It's like, no, you just nearly died in that fireball that was your bike. So yeah, if you want the F1 drivers to do other stuff, obviously not rally, obviously not MotoGP and not an IndyCar oval. But apart from that, it would be nice to see. I think that brings me on to my next subject, because we're talking about IndyCar. Let's talk about Colin HEERTA. Colton, I know I said it wrong. Colton HEERTA. Okay, Matt, I'm sure you know more about this topic than me, but Colton HEERTA, an IndyCar driver, from the... No? I've got it wrong already?
No, you have it right. I thought you paused and the lag.
Oh, I see.
Confused me.
No, this doesn't sit right with me. So he's pretty good at IndyCar, right? This guy, Colton. And that's a real name, Colton. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, so his
Over here
parents...
in the United States,
Really?
Is
that quite common? Okay.
Reasonably, I think.
Okay. So they had this beautiful, beautiful baby, and they said, we're going to call it Colton. All right. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm not judging. But anyway, so Colton HEERTA does pretty well at IndyCar. He's like mid-20s.
Yes. He's prime racing age.
Did he come through the European feeder series?
He did have some European feeder experience early on in MSA, which turned into British Formula 4. And you'll never guess who his teammate was.
Lewis Capaldi.
Lando Norris.
Oh, right. Okay, cool. So he went through that, has done pretty well in IndyCar. And now to get the F1 drive, presumably with Cadillac, he's going to quit IndyCar, come and do F2 with a bunch of kids to get his super license points to then come to F1. My overarching feeling of all of this is massively disrespectful to the top tier of American open wheel motorsport. And as the very minimum courtesy, obviously you've got to do your due diligence and say, come and test some F1 cars, come and do some FP1s and stuff. But I think it's absolutely ridiculous that the premier, quote unquote, European sport, that we're saying to America, no, we're Max Verstappening him. We're doing what VLN did to Max Verstappen. I think we should say, yeah, we'd like you to get experience, but don't go into the junior series and race with the kids. To me, that's a step too far, Matt.
Yeah, in a sense, it is. I think, though, as much as we can say it's silly because of the super license points, if you look at how IndyCar, say, is apportioned, or you could say the super license points all by themselves are silly, and the whole thing should be rethought. For someone at his level, with his level of experience, with wins in highly competitive series, which at the top end, IndyCar is very competitive, and the cars are very close together. It takes a lot to make a small margin in IndyCar. It's kind of silly to make him go do F2. Now, if I'm Colton, I'm thinking this is a cheap and easy way for me to learn how to correctly drive the Pirelli tires before I go to Formula One. And it has the added advantage of getting me the extra super license points I'm going to need. The only potential downside is if he doesn't get with a good team and he doesn't do well, then maybe that's not going to look so good.
Big risk.
It is a big risk, but I think there are positives to take from it. In, as you said, Matt, with the tyres in particular, getting used to those, and also the circuits. Like the F2 runs on the same circuits, or the F2 series runs on the same circuits that F1 does. So while it's not every single race circuit, there's enough of them for him to, outside of the sim, get real world experience in races, multiple races and multiple sessions over a weekend. In cars that, yes, are slower, but not probably too dissimilar to what we're going to experience in F1. So there are positives to take from it, but yeah, on the face of it, it's a bit like, really? You're going to make him go do F2? I just think it highlights again how ridiculous the super license points are and how the FIA/F1 just looks down on every kind of other motorsport series across the world, because those guys, like some of the tracks they race on and those cars that they race on are just as tough and it's just as strenuous on the body and just as close racing as what we see in F1, sometimes even more.
Can I just be clear? I'm still saying F1's better than IndyCar. I'm saying F1 beats IndyCar.
Yeah, I prefer F1 over IndyCar, but I don't think that they should be made to jump so many more hoops than someone in F3 and F2. I mean, look, we know why the license is set up as it is to protect the junior series, to protect this so-called expensive ladder.
Yes.
that
Well, no,
F1 has set up.
It's
or
a business.
FIA has
I mean,
set up.
it's a business, isn't it? So all the cars
Exactly.
all the teams in F2 are basically businesses that provide. Is this harsh? Is this wrong? That provide a service,
No,
a car
100% right.
for rich drivers. So if you can skip that somehow, then I guess that reduces the value of the service that they're providing. Oh, I didn't think of that. Oh, I love it when we answer something in real time. That's part of the reason why. Then it's all a scam.
Of course it is. I mean, how much do they pay? I think it's 1 million for F3 is a season, and then it's 2 to 3 million or 4 million or something it's something ridiculous. Sometimes even up to 5 million, depending on what team you're in F2. Like, it is absolutely ridiculous, and that's why unfortunately you do see some top drivers in F3 who you think, oh, he's pretty good, and then you don't see him ever again. It's because he couldn't secure funding for an F2 drive or another season in F3 because it's so expensive. And this is why so many of these drivers seek these junior academies of F1 teams because they get funded. It's not because, it's a route into the team. It's because otherwise they wouldn't even be on the grid for the next season.
I had this whole thing of like, why are we doing this to Cole and HEERTA? And it's like, oh, it was money. Like, the answer is always, because money. Mark says some of the F2 races look less professional than a bunch of the missed Apex fans cosplaying as racing drivers during our iRacing. Did you see the F2 races at Monza?
Listen, that looked like a number of the Super Formula races that I participated in last week.
On iRacing, yeah.
Is it any surprise that I've lined up against half of these F2 drivers and F3 drivers on the grid? Yeah. And it's like, that looks very familiar to my midweek race.
A lot of these guys have cut their teeth on iRacing. Particularly, Paddy says in our Patreon Discord, watching the F2 at Monza was probably the most exciting racing because you knew that enough of them are idiots that something wild will happen. And it did. It just kept happening over and over again. So, okay, that makes a lot of sense, though. So there's risks involved here for HEERTA himself. He obviously wants to be an F1 driver, and it makes a lot of sense for Cadillac to have an American driver. And I'll speak to you, Matt. It's okay if you want your American team to have an American driver so that you can, go USA and post gifs of Eagly, and stuff like that. Like,
I love Eagly.
I love Peacemaker. Peacemaker season 2 is pretty good. Yeah. It's pretty good, by the way. Yeah. But, I will sacrifice as many IndyCar drivers as it needs to achieve this dream for you of having an American F1 team with an American driver. But yeah, if he sucks in F2, that's bad because they probably are going to take him on anyway. And then he's going to come into F1 under this cloud of, but you kind of sucked at F2.
But then the argument would be the same argument I would always use in this circumstance, which is the Kamui Kobayashi argument, which is, well, he was nothing special until they put him in a Formula One car, and then he demonstrated what he really had. Okay. No, I think
wash your mouth out.
There's an issue with HEERTA maybe doing poorly, but he wouldn't be considered by anyone who watches IndyCar to be the choice. If you wanted to pick the best driver in IndyCar to go to Formula One, no one would pick HEERTA. He's quick.
Really?
No one is sitting there saying he's the absolute dead best. There's a couple of other names that get mentioned. And of course, there's a lot of former European drivers that go to IndyCar precisely because you can get into it a lot less expensively. But I'm going to put out another problem. What if he goes there and just absolutely wipes the floor? What does that make the super license and the whole FIA system look like?
I think that's
at that point.
I think that's okay. I think if he goes there and absolutely dominates, I think everyone's happy, everyone's fine, because that's a bunch of kids. And of course he wiped the floor with them because he's been racing at a top tier premier single-seater series. I think that's the best result for everyone if he goes in there and just absolutely spanks the championship. And then when he goes into F1, is there a chance with Cadillac? Because our first reckon actually comes from Mike Caulfield, the ex-F1 strategist, who says, I reckon we'll see a Haas podium before the end of the season. Optimistic. Obviously, he's ex-Haas. And Cadillac will be a huge disappointment next year. So let's have just a brief chat about Cadillac. All right, Matt, I'll go to you. The Cadillac going to be awful?
No, they won't be. Well, I should say define awful. because
Bottom
I
third.
think they will be respectable on the track in the sense they will have a car that works. And assuming Ferrari provides them with a fairly capable engine, I would expect them to be the back of the Ferrari powered teams, which would still potentially be ahead of the Ford Red Bull powertrain teams.
I'm quite impressed that they did a full War Games at Monza. So they did a full race simulation. They had all the people there. They even scheduled in when the drivers would be available and unavailable for press duties so that they could do all their team meetings and stuff. And you go, that's pretty good. I don't know. I don't remember Haas doing that. So you go, they are preparing. And as much as we've been a bit meh about Graham Loudon, maybe we're doing him a disservice. My feeling with Loudon was that from a press point of view, it's not like you bagged Binotto. If you bagged Binotto, there would have been a lot more, oh, you've got Mattia Binotto, my goodness. When you say you've got Loudon, everyone was saying, oh, the Mauritia guy. Oh, okay, I guess. But it looks like they are crossing the I's and dotting the T's.
Yeah, and don't forget Pat Simmons is there too. There's a lot of very experienced people on this team, and they'll have a good idea of how to help Cadillac prepare for their first races. I mean, I know from the article that they've already mocked up a prototype chassis, subjected it to all of the FIA tests, and then their process of actually making their first actual chassis for next season. So they're likely ahead of all of the other teams at this point because all of the other teams are still engaged in the 25 season.
I think they're going to be the most well-prepared new team in F1 history. I mean, this is Cadillac, if you remember. It's not like, yes, it's their first rodeo in F1, but it's not their first rodeo in motorsport. They've been in various forms of motorsport for a number of years, so they know how to operate a competitive team, and I think they've recruited very well. And to be honest, 2026 is such an unknown. I don't think anyone can really predict accurately what is going to happen at the start of next season. Okay, I don't predict that because they will be using a Ferrari engine. I don't predict they're going to be the fastest team out of the blocks in 2026. But I think if you look at when Haas first joined, we have very low expectations for them, and they scored some points. They had some very poor races.
Matt said they were going to win the title first season.
That's his American bias.
EJ says, by the way,
that's his patriotism coming out there.
EJ says Haas outsourced their F1 prep to Ferrari. Brackets allegedly. But sorry, Scott.
But yeah, I mean, I think, and I'm pretty sure, I mean, from the outside in, looking from the outside, sorry, it seems like they're a lot more prepared and they've recruited a lot better than Haas ever did when they were joining F1. So I'm quietly positive about their chances for this season. I'll be actively keeping an eye out on them because it's the first new team we've had since Haas, and also they're setting everything up from scratch, unlike Audi, who are taking over an already existing team. So yeah, I think everything looks okay, and they're doing the right things in the setup and preparation for the new season, their first season.
Okay, so I'll just go out and say I think they're going to be dead last by some margin, because if you look at a new regulation set, the teams who tend to do well at the new regulation set are the teams that are good. So as much as we think, there's this roll of the dice and there's going to be a Brawn scenario, and then people look at, 2014, suddenly the Mercedes came to the top. In both those situations, Brawn was not Hesketh F1 coming from F2 with James Hunt. Brawn was Honda, and they'd invested an awful lot in that, and it was political situations that meant that Honda really couldn't go in. So Brawn was I don't want to be like, kill the magic, but Brawn was a rebadged Honda team, and the Mercedes was a juggernaut with limitless expenses in a pre-cost cap era. So those are the only times I can really think of when we've been surprised in a new regulation set by just a car coming out of nowhere. I think Cadillac is facing the biggest challenge out of all of the teams, and expectations should be in the dirt. And sorry, I can't remember who it was in the live chat, but I did see a comment fly by that said basically if they're finishing races, that's going to be the standard that they should be happy with.
Well, and this is what Simmons has said. Like, our main goal is to show up, be within the 107%, not to be lapped 3 times. But the point I'm going to make here is that when everybody else is lapped on, the point I'm making here, though, is this is going to be very power unit dependent. And I go back to the beginning of 2014, where we saw the Mercedes powered teams, including Williams, just absolutely slaughtering everybody because their power unit was so much better. I don't think it's going to be as much of an effect. But that's why I say it's really, a lot of it's going to come down to the power unit that they give to Cadillac. If it's close to Mercedes and they have 2 veteran drivers and they just build a vanilla car that doesn't break all the time with the extra hydraulics needed for your X and your Z modes, then they have every chance of fluking a midfield result and getting maybe a point, which I think would be huge for them. But you have to consider, we don't know anything about the Ford Red Bull powertrains except what we've heard, and it's all been uniformly awful. I mean, you could see them not finish half the races based on the rumors you've heard. I don't necessarily think that's true, but you Matt, get my point.
You need to stop flirting with me right now because it's not appropriate.
What? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, don't.
You're just so handsome.
Thanks, mate. Thanks. It's the new hair gel. So I think what you're saying there is it depends on Ferrari giving them a good engine. All right. Well, let's flip a coin there. We're going to talk about that in a second. And it's dependent on if they can just F1 really well, then they'll do good at F1. That's what you're saying. Yeah, good. Yeah, that applies to all the teams. If they do good, if they just F1 really well.
If they don't try to do more than they're capable of, if they focus on having a car that is reliable in the mechanical sense, rather than grabbing for that brass ring, then they give themselves every chance, because we're going to see huge amounts of, well, you don't know. It's very likely, probabilities indicate we'll see lots of reliability issues next season, and that opens some doors for them.
So it sounds like you're doing the Grandpa Simpson advice. Go for the less attractive wife, the more economical car. We're saying let's play high percentage F1. Let's not take any risks.
Absolutely.
What have we always said on this channel, Spanners? On this podcast, what's the key to a happy and successful life?
Low expectations, Scott. Low expectations.
Exactly. And I think that's exactly the right approach that Cadillac are taking. And look, as I said, 2026, I do think, yes, while it is an unknown, we've seen enough regulation changes in our time in watching F1 for the top teams are going to come out firing. So they're going to get the creme de la creme of components and parts. But it's a lot. I think there is room further down the grid, as there always has been.
One last news item then, because it's related to this before we go to the things that you reckon. But who did you say is supplying the engine for Cadillac?
Ferrari.
As a recent Ferrari fan, I would like some hope. For a win this season for Lewis, and if that's not possible, then I'll take one for Leclerc. And I would like some hope about the 2026 season as well, because I've heard that they're gambling. They're going all in. They're not playing high percentage engine at all. They're playing win or bin engine. Matt, why should I be optimistic about a Ferrari win this season?
I think the only reason you have to be optimistic is the fact that they have not fully gotten to grips with the new brakes and the new rear suspension, which means that
that's not optimistic.
The display that we saw in Monza may not be representative of the complete potential, but, and there's a reason I called this section copium. Turns out that they ditched the 25 car from the wind tunnel in early summer, a month ahead of when they planned to. So I think that kind of says it all. They canceled performance updates. You're only getting track specific updates from here to the end of the season. So if there's going to be a win, it's going to have to be driver inspired, circuit specific kind of a win.
The only way they're getting a win is if Lando and Oscar Piastri collide. But let's be honest, then Max is racing the Nürburgring that weekend or the Nordschleife that weekend, because Monza was their only opportunity, let's be honest. It's the one track where they always bring a track specific. I know Matt's just said track specific, but they bring a special update package to Monza. Look where it got them. And with this being a unique year, of course, with 2026 on the horizon, they're just, there's no tracks between now and the end of the season where they're going to outperform the McLarens and Max Verstappen. You would say maybe Baku because of the low downforce package, and Vegas, maybe Vegas, but Max is going to be strong there. Look how strong he was in Monza, and that car evidently seems to be a lot more comfortable when it's running lower downforce packages. So, yeah, not much hope, to be honest. No hope for a race win this season unless there's carnage in front of them. But 2026, I think that's where Ferrari fans need to be looking now, and it's definitely where Lewis Hamilton is looking as well. If you listen to any of his interviews, he's always mentioning 2026, and he's kind of just, wishing the days away for this season already.
Yeah, and this is the thing. I'm already going to pour some even more cold water. They didn't even bring a brand new rear wing to Monza, did Ferrari. They just took last year's and trimmed some off the DRS flap.
God.
Decided not to run it, and then looked at FP1 and decided to run it anyway because they were having issues with the brakes and suspension. So that's why I say there's room in the tuning to potentially see that Ferrari be a lot more competitive. But that's where it's got to happen, because they're not going to be bringing a whole bunch of new parts.
Matt, your defense of Ferrari is, hey guys, like, look on the bright side. Like, they sucked, and they might suck less.
I mean, there is one way they can win a race this year, other than the carnage ahead of them, is run the car to disqualification levels. Win the race,
China.
Say we won the race outright, and then just get disqualified. It's all about the optics, you know. They can put the graphics out, but we won the race. And then when the post-race scrutineering comes
rigged.
in...
It's rigged. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So they have made a competitive car, but just at illegal levels.
They haven't made a competitive... They've made a competitive car for a series that doesn't have any plank wear rules.
Basically. Like every team has.
Was it McLaren that installed a part upside down and was like seconds faster?
Yeah,
and everyone was like, oh, and then they realized the part was completely illegal that way, and they were completely mid the whole rest of the season. That was in testing. It's still one of my favorite stories.
I feel like we don't have any more of those big innovations in testing that are like huge win or bin. Do you remember when McLaren turned up with a sail at the back? Like, their whole diffuser was basically a sail. And you go, well, how's that going to work? And it didn't.
Yeah, well, I think zero pods might qualify.
Yeah,
but that was a bin. That was definitely a bin. And
well, that's McLaren as well. That was McLaren as well, wasn't it? So, and then the big one was the Lotus. Yeah, that was McLaren that had the zero.
No, Mercedes. Mercedes. The new regulation set.
McLaren
zero
did
pods.
It first. They did size 0 with the Honda. Yes, they did.
They did size 0, but that wasn't quite the same thing as 0.
And that's
okay. Let's argue about this for an hour.
So no, but that was a thing where they were that Honda kind of pushed back and said, well, they weren't given a chance to do the layouts and what they wanted with the engine, because McLaren was so in love with this size 0.
Right, the aerodynamic concept of size 0.
Yeah. Okay, and then then Mercedes did the
zero pod.
Zero pod.
Yeah. And that one Twitter guy, he's got quite a big account, and he went, oh my God, this is unmatched. The advantage is going to be locked in for years. And whenever he tweets anything now, people just repost. That's cruel. That is cruel. Okay, so we've been talking here. Why did we get to zero pods? Like, I thought we were talking about Ferrari, Matt. How have you taken us down this route? I blame you entirely.
It is entirely my fault. We went down this because you're talking about the lack of parts coming to Ferrari.
Where's the Lotus asymmetric nose? Like, where's that era of F1? It's gone.
We may generally see more of it come back with the whole active aero. I'm sure there'll be teams looking at that there to try and gain an advantage. But the problem is now as well these days is that I think the reason why we don't see these innovative parts anymore is because there's so many cameras, there's so many eyes on these cars. If there is something that physically moves, someone picks it up, whether it be online, whether it be in the paddock. And these teams are so quick in penalising it or getting onto the FIA going, no, that's not allowed. Remember the DAS system, the drag adjustment
for Mercedes,
system,
yeah,
where they could move the wheel back so it would straighten out the wheels and
Yeah.
gain them potentially some top end speed down the straights, and then they'd push it forward again, and that got picked up on and banned. But that was really innovative, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And the asymmetric braking system the Red Bull got away with deploying on Verstappen's car.
That too, allegedly.
Nope. Not allegedly.
Oh, we're
no.
past that.
They
Past
had
that.
it. They had it. Come get me.
I think Summers is rolling in his grave and he's not even dead. You've all forgotten how different all the solutions were at the start of this new aerodynamic regulation set. We probably will see a lot of different solutions that will then rapidly converge, and we're at the convergent stage now.
All right. Good. So, in short, Ferrari aren't winning anything. So, great. Good. It's fine. I can just stop hoping. Can it just be over with? Shall we get to things people reckon?
Let's do it.
Here on Missed Apex Podcast, we do not ask for questions because we don't know any more than you do. We're just people who own microphones, and yes, I agree, podcast equipment should be way more expensive. There's no way I should be allowed to do this. However, no one is stopping me. And in fact, people are enabling it by supporting us on Patreon, patreon.com/MissedApex. Thank you so much to our patrons. We love having our patron Discord chat. We have them here in the live chat, but it's more than that. During the races as well, we're just sat chatting with them. It's our company during the races, and it's our company during the non-F1 times as well, because there's a million channels from MotoGP, Formula E, karting. There's a map flicks, so Missed Apex TV show recommendations. It's a wonderful community. Come and join us by searching for patreon.com/MissedApex. It's still $5 a month. And it has been for a long time, even though inflation is absolutely, that's killing us. To be honest, the rate of inflation around the world and the cost of living, whatever, we're keeping it at $5. We're going to hope that is an encouraging amount to get enough people in. That just means me and Matt can do this as part of our working week. So what Amber in our Patreon Discord reckons is, I reckon we'll get one out of nowhere surprise win from a midfield team, probably Hadjar. Now, I don't think it would be a massive surprise to see, someone outside of the top three go and get a podium. So we saw Hulkenberg already get a podium. We've seen Hadjar get a podium. But do you know who I think is due, Matt? And this is I know you've always been an apologist for Alpine, but I just really, really think Gasly is due a podium. He's disappeared. He's been just he's the next in the churn of Alpine drivers or Renault drivers who went there on a hope and a dream, who've just been lost. Who has anything negative to say about Gasly in recent seasons? No one. Who has anything positive to say about Gasly in recent seasons? No one. But he is due a podium to just remind us that he is a top driver in F1.
Or at least a solid 5th place finish. I think for Alpine, the deal is they've given up. They gave up a long time ago, and they're effectively probably racing for the most part with a car that's several months old against people who are still bringing updates. And the reason they're doing that is they're getting a Mercedes engine next season. So I think if I'm Gasly, if it's wet out, if whatever, there's a specific kind of track that tends to suit the Alpine more, he could easily get a result, but him getting a result like a podium, it's again going to be a fluke. You're going to have some carnage in front for any midfielder to wind up with a win or, frankly, even a podium, I think.
Totally agree. If any of those drivers had Jar or any of the midfield teams, Gasly, they're a bottom team at the moment, aren't they, Alpine, quite comfortably, then it needs to be like where he got his podium last year in Interlagos, where we have those changeable conditions. Like we saw Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg got his podium in exactly the same fashion at Silverstone, and Hadjar, well, he benefited from I guess some carnage as well, didn't he? Although it was a very solid race weekend for him, and he would have finished fourth outright anyway without Lando's breakdown. But Gasly, I agree, he's just signed a contract extension with Alpine. I guess why not? There's no other seats on the grid available for him, and I really rate Gasly. I think he's had a top season considering the issues that he's had to deal with at Alpine. I mean, the amount of times I've seen him push for Q3 and even get into Q3 when he damn right does not deserve to. Even in a car.
The car doesn't deserve to. Not him. He deserves to.
No, he deserves. Yeah, the car. Sorry, not him. The car doesn't deserve to. And then you think, okay, they've set the car up for one lap pace, as you do, but he then still is pushing for those points positions so often, and that's just, it's a real shame. I really wish there was another top. I think Red Bull came too early for him, and I'd really wish there was another seat available for him to have. I think he's really matured as a driver. And he's one of those, I'd love to see another opportunity in a top team.
Also, we just need an apology tour for all those Red Bull number twos now that we really have solid evidence that they just never had the same car. But with Gasly as well, I think Verstappen owes Gasly an apology. I think at the beginning of the season, they did these question clips. So they say, oh, which driver do you think is most likely to be able to juggle all 5 balls? And they go, oh, I think that would be Tsunoda. And they did that, and I think it was at the beginning of the season because Tsunoda is not included in any of the ones that have been released, and I think it's just because they changed teams, so the sponsors don't want to see Tsunoda in a Visa Cash App shirt or whatever. But they said who has the best hair, and the usual candidates like Russell and everyone and Carlos Sainz came up, and Verstappen said, well, Gasly's gone for a hair upgrade, so we'll have to see how that goes. So clearly alluding to the fact that maybe he's gone and had a bit of a hair transplant, which I don't think anyone should be shamed for, but oh my God, did he throw Gasly under the bus there? It does look like he's had a hair transplant, but also I'm gauging the reaction to that thread because I want to know how people are going to react when I go and do the same thing. Sorry, Matt, my trivial point shouldn't have gained priority over your serious one.
My only point, Scott, was the main and best reason to sign for Alpine next season is that Mercedes engine. If you take away the disadvantage of the Renault engine, the Alpine actually hasn't been a terrible chassis, and they have a reasonable race team running it. The disappointment's been at the power unit side. And then, like I said, because they're saving money constantly, they've done the same thing as Ferrari, and they've just sort of stopped at anything but a trickle of very specific updates for particular tracks they'd already planned to make.
Okay. Well, does anyone else have an unlikely podium? Who deserves a podium? Ocon. I'm sure you'd say Ocon with a hazmat.
I would love, as Mike suggested, for Haas to get a podium. Ocon seems more likely because he's less crashy in the races. Like, I think he's more of a solid bet. But my personal pick would be Albon with the Williams as being the most likely. Yes. And I can see by Scott's expression that I've stolen his point. So go ahead, Scott.
I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, he totally deserves it out of everyone on that grid right now. He's the best performing driver outside of the top 7, shall we say, because he's now ahead of Antonelli in the driver's standings. So yeah, Albon thoroughly deserves an opportunity at a podium, or deserves a podium. Whether he'll get it or not, I don't know. I think there's going to be few chances without carnage between now and the end of the well, unless there is carnage until the end of the season. But yeah, if there's one driver on the grid because of how they're performing this year, it's Albon.
Who doesn't deserve a podium? Who doesn't deserve a podium for the rest of the season? Sainz, because he hasn't been able to get on top of Albon. I think if he got a podium instead of Albon, I'd feel like that was an injustice. Colapinto out of nowhere. Sorry, Argentina. If he got one out of nowhere, that would be unexpected and strange. And there's no build up to it. I think if Behrman popped up and got a podium, that would feel like, oh, okay, that's part of the journey. Definitely not Lawson. Anyone but Lawson.
Ooh, controversial take.
I think you got to look at teams. I think Haas has a fast enough car. If they can do the rest of the teamy things straight, I think Williams has a fast enough car. And beyond that, it's very specific beyond that. Who am I forgetting? Are we counting Aston as midfield? I don't even know anymore.
Oh, yeah. Well, Fernando Alonso, he's never going to be off the podium again from Spain 23. So, yeah. I don't think there's any chance at all of... In fact, I would say that it's more likely for Stroll to get a podium than Alonso. Because on performance, yeah, I think Alonso is obviously going to edge Stroll, even at his age. But Stroll has that potential where if it's hailing and there's crocodiles on track and everybody's skidding off, he could just, kind of pootle along to his podium.
Stroll also gets the benefit of a Hail Mary strategy as well, like he did in Silverstone. Like, he was close to getting that podium over Hulkenberg. Probably we got caught by Hamilton anyway, but he's normally lower down the grid, out of position than where Alonso is. Alonso's always, majority of the times he's fighting for points. So they don't throw that Hail Mary strategy out there. Whereas Stroll gets that. And then all of a sudden, in these changeable condition races, he finds himself up in P5 like he was in Australia and then in Silverstone. And he benefits from that. Whereas Alonso isn't getting that because of where he qualifies in Q3 and where he's running in most of his races.
I think it's possible for Stroll to fluke a result. We've certainly seen him do that in the past in weird weather. But fundamentally, what I noticed about Alonso is Stroll tends to beat him until the car is competitive.
Yeah.
And if the car is competitive at the circuit, suddenly Alonso comes alive and it's not really that close.
Okay, some quick fire reckons then. This has been fun, but we haven't got enough of the reckons in. So if I have to sit and I have to pop up a recording with some more of the reckons, I think, I will do that. John M., I reckon that we're going to see the Alpha Tauris, that's what we're calling Minardi now, have a lot of engine failures next year as Red Bull use them as a test mule for new engine variants. They might even mysteriously go over the cost cap because of this, and everyone will feign shock and horror. That is perfectly plausible, but I still want to make clear that I don't think that they are the only team that have done this. So in my mind, I still try in 2021 to put together in my head George Russell having mysterious engine issues and occasional spikes and dips in engine performance, and then suddenly they come up with a spicy engine that they were way too happy about. They didn't need to come out and go, we've got a super spicy engine. It's so good. It's so spicy. Oh, is that why Russell's engine kept blowing up? Oh, no. Nothing to do with that at all. Teams will do that. And I think it is downplayed how much power Mercedes had over their customer teams. But yeah, it is certainly an advantage to have a team that you can full-time deploy to try out your new Red Bull powertrain. And even the second car. You could do it on the second car as well. Let's see. Matt, anything on that?
Yeah, I would just say Russell being a Mercedes client probably meant that he had more laissez-faire with the engine maps and stuff like that than typically with the customers. Once you have a reliable engine, you don't want it exploding. But because he was a Mercedes driver, maybe they were like, well, let's give him a little extra so he looks good.
Ahmed says, and by the way, I'm doing these quick fire, so guys, just stick your hands up if you want to jump in on the point. Ahmed says, I reckon Toyota will complete a full takeover of Haas in 2026.
Maybe not 2026, but I think, yes, definitely that's the future for Haas. I think Gene Haas, he's a bit of a shrewd guy, always running that team on a budget, and I think he probably will sell that team up if the right offer comes in. And I've always said the technical partnership that Toyota has got this year with Haas is them dipping their toe back in the F1 water. And yeah, that would be sooner rather than later. Maybe not 26, but very soon. So
in private conversations, and that's as far as I can go, in private conversations, I've really got the impression that Toyota's influence is going in that direction. So I feel fairly confident that that's the direction it's going. But again, I'm also very bad at networking. I'm really bad in those situations where I don't start poking people in the ribs going, tell me what you know. I demand answers. So Stuart says, I reckon the early shift to 2026 by Williams will pay dividends.
I agree.
Do you? So I
have faith in JV, in Mr. Vowles. There's something about him.
JV we trust.
I think he's really turned. You look at where that team was a few years ago until we took it over. I think he's really pointed that ship in the right direction, and I think it could be a godsend that they've focused their time and resource onto 26 as early as they did, and they're still looking like they're going to get the money for this season as well, after front loading the start of the year.
Counter. I think James Vowles has been clever at, obviously protecting his job, saying it doesn't matter what happens in the next 3 years. It's all about 2026. And if they fail in 2026, they're not going to fire him the first year. It's probably going to go, well, it's all part of the project. They'll fire him in 2027. So he's had 5 years of a great job. And it's been really positive to see them going up the grid and scoring points early on. And goodness knows, I lost the preseason debate and the preseason bets about who was going to finish fifth. And lots of people saying Williams fourth, Williams fifth. And now I think at worst they will finish a close sixth or close seventh. So obviously it's good. But I would argue that they've done that at the end of a regulation set where there's some teams just not competing, like Sauber. Just have they really turned up? Have Stake really turned up with a full effort for this season? A lot of the teams that they're taking points off of have already fully diverted from the beginning of the season. Whatever they say, they fully diverted to 2026. It's an easier season probably to go and get results from the midfield. I don't think it's a guarantee of, because they took a step forward this year, that means they're going to do even better in 2026. So I'm going to say something that will be clipped out and repeated and thrown in my face over and over again. I think it's a doomed adventure, and I think they will come in with a strong 5th or 6th place, which will be deemed a failure.
Next season, just to be clear.
2026.
Next
2026,
season.
yeah.
Good. Yeah, I will just remind you who's getting Mercedes power units right now.
Yeah.
And it's not the whole grid.
No. It is Alpine, Williams, Aston Martin. No, Aston Martin's going to Honda. McLaren and Mercedes.
So you'd think if they did the worst out of those, and Mercedes has by far the best power unit, they'd be fourth.
You told me Ferrari's going to have the best power unit. You promised.
Some people think Ferrari might have a competitive power unit with Mercedes. Some people think they might have a better one, but we don't know because it is all still rumor. But historically speaking, Mercedes has generally shown up to new regulation sets with very good power units. And of those four, I'd easily bet on Williams beating Alpine, which means third. Just putting it out there. I think Vowles has been super clever to focus on 26 because the power unit could cover up a lot of potential errors.
Like 2014. Yeah, in our live chat, Paddy says, apparently James Vowles insisted that all the No, I'm not reading that. Mark says, it depends what he promised to the shareholders. He's not a tech guy. He's the ultimate pragmatist. Hopefully he hasn't over-promised. And that is going to be a big part of it. But I would say that to the fans, the way he's talked about break everything, you can get things wrong, 23, 24, 25, doesn't matter. It's all about 2026. I think the way he sold it to Williams fans, and that includes a lot of guys in their 40s and 50s, Williams fans in the UK particularly, I think that James Vowles has promised us a championship. And I think he's over Scott. All the things he said. He's basically said, we're going to win the title. This is going to be Mansell. This is going to be Damon Hill.
He's saying it's going to be an improvement on where they've been for so many years, which is so far off the top four. I think he's talking about breaking into that top four and with the potential of them winning races. Also, what do we always say about these guys is that every single time they get behind a mic, they're speaking to potential sponsors and partnerships. And Williams have massively increased their sponsorships and their income in that regard since James Vowles has come in. He's shrewd in that sense. He knows what he's saying, and he's speaking to them as much as he is speaking to fans. But I don't think he's once said, or I don't think he's speaking. He's promising a championship. Yeah. He's just talking about bringing Williams.
No. It's a return
to where they haven't been for so long.
Yeah. But if you're saying bringing Williams back, that's championships. It's Williams. This is
But
Williams.
To you, maybe, who was watching in the early 90s, but
And 80s.
a lot of F1 fans now.
That's very kind of you, but 80s as well.
Well, there we go. Not as old as that. I mean, I wasn't around. The last Williams, competitive Williams I remember was, or most people remember, was Bottas and, it was
2014.
2014?
Yeah, 2014.
Where we saw Bottas and Massa every now and then.
They finished P2 in that championship.
Oh, did they? I don't even remember that. So that's the last time. And then before that, even then, it was going back to Damon Hill when in 96. So, it's been a while. It's been too sporadic of Williams, and I think it's about him bringing them back into that top 4.
Maria from the top rope against Trumpets. How many times has Mercedes nailed a new engine regulation? Like just the once in 2014? That's a fair comment, to be fair, Matt.
They've been in the sport longer. I really have to go back and look. But their fundamental reputation is they bring a good engine at the start of a regulation set. So they had a V8 for sure, because that's what Braun used in their car.
Mm-hmm.
And they were actually, I think they're the most powerful engine out of all of them at the end of the V8 regulations. I don't recall where they were at the start, but there's a reason people like to have Mercedes power units in the back of their car. And it's
hang
not
on.
because
Braun,
they're terrible and unreliable.
Good point. Braun ran a Mercedes engine.
Yeah, because Honda wasn't providing them anymore.
McLaren, when Hamilton won his championship there, running a Mercedes engine. Oh, there you go, Maria. Sorry. Good challenge, but incorrect challenge. You lose 17 points. Oh, no. Chris G says, I reckon Ferrari will maintain their top 10 finishes, with Leclerc putting in some good qualifiers, but we aren't going to see them on the podium again. However, they will continue to outscore Mercedes and Red Bull, since both of those teams are effectively operating as one driver teams. And this is what's killing me about Ferrari. They're talking about solidifying their P2 in the championship. It is the least celebratory P2 that you could have, because Red Bull deliberately take themselves out of the constructors because it doesn't benefit them to finish any higher in the constructors. If anything, it takes away wind tunnel time. And Mercedes have put themselves in a situation where, and I could speak on George Russell's performance this season, but I'm not going to, but they've got a rookie who isn't performing at the moment. So really, like, for them to say, oh, we're great, we finished P2. Yeah, you should. You've got Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, and then you're fighting against teams that are only really having one competitive car.
100% agree. That no one cares. No Ferrari fan cares, or Charles Leclerc or Lewis Hamilton fan cares about second in the constructors. We all know the constructors is just all about who finishes first, similar with the drivers to an extent as well. But Ferrari in particular, take a look at yourself, the optics. What is going to gain you more media coverage across the world? A Lewis Hamilton win or second in the constructors? Yes, overall, your bank balance may look better at the end of the year because you win second place in the constructors and get that prize money. But the optics and the coverage that you would get if Lewis Hamilton wins, and even Charles Leclerc now because of how long it's been, that's worth a lot more than second in the constructors.
You know the trolley problem where there's a train that's going to hit one person? No, hit 5 people. But if you could pull the lever, it would only kill one person. Would you pull that lever? So if you're Ferrari and you've got Leclerc in the lead and you're deciding what strategy they're going to have and Hamilton second, if you pull that lever and gift Hamilton the win, or like somehow, we've had a slow pit stop and we're not going to McLaren it and give it back, I don't know if that's a terrible idea, because Leclerc is popular. He's got a big fan base and they're really passionate. But if you get a Lewis Hamilton win, that is bank. That is going to, like you say, Scott, that is going to massively increase profile. It's going to justify their decision. It's going to increase their share price. You're going to sell more merch. I'm a Charles Leclerc fan as well, but I think I would pull the lever.
And from a business perspective,
just pull it.
There's no option there, really. You do what you can to get Lewis that win, because it's that. I think a Lewis Hamilton Grand Prix win yes, he won the sprint race, but
Yeah.
a Grand Prix win is one of those things that would make front page news in a lot of outlets across the world. And there's very few things in any sports, very few events that can bridge that from bringing it from the back page to the front page. And a Lewis Hamilton win could do that.
So Paddy says there, the cheers for Lewis at Monza versus those for Leclerc were noticeably bigger. So people are like confirming that that's the case. And that isn't any shade on Charles Leclerc. That is just the superstardom that Lewis Hamilton still brings to the sport. We've got a couple of long emails. I don't think I'm going to get into them. I think we're out of time, but we are going to have a Baku preview. So me and Antonia and Matt are going to look forward to the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. And then we are going to have the Azerbaijan Grand Prix race review. I think that will be around 8 p.m. UK time. But before we get to the race review, if you are disillusioned with the commentary, if you feel like that you want something different, why not go to a YouTube stream and listen to Scott? Because his watch along gets 80 million views per stream.
Just a few zeros less than that, but we did hit 27,000 peak viewers.
27,000 people at a time watching your watch along. Like, man, like I get like nervous if there's been a controversial thing in F1 and or say if Lewis Hamilton wins a race, I'm like, oh crap, we've got to be actually good on this one because people are going to actually listen. But 27,000 people at the same time live. What is your live chat like?
Very good, actually. I have some very, very good moderators who ensure that nothing is untoward is said. And I utilize AI to ensure that no naughty words and some banned phrases are put in there. So yes, it's a respectful chat that anyone of any fan can come and enjoy.
Our moderators here,
have a great discussion.
Our moderators here on the Missed Apex Discord, I think they actively work against me, if I'm honest. I think they DM people lines to come and troll me with. But yeah, no, go and watch the watch along with Scott. It's a great place to hang out. And then, of course, make sure that you tune in to Missed Apex after the race, which means subscribing. So if you're a YouTube viewer, like hit subscribe. Honestly, hit subscribe. It helps us so much. And there's a little bell icon. And if you click that, you'll get a notification when we go live. If you are a audio listener, I looked on the stats and there's so many people that Google search Missed Apex. And so regular listeners are searching in, Missed Apex race review or whatever. Subscribe. Please subscribe. And then it downloads immediately when we release the episode and you can watch it whenever you want or listen to it whenever you want. But we are then locking in that download and it really helps us with the chart positions and with our algorithm and for selling ads and stuff like that. But if you don't want ads, support us at patreon.com/Missed Apex. Matt, what's going on in your world, buddy? Nothing. Well, there's nothing, isn't it? It's just naps.
I was going to say everything. I'll be, if you're in Little Italy on Tuesday or Wednesday, you might see me with the Italian band playing some Italian feast tunes for the Feast of San Gennaro. Other than that, I don't have anything scheduled publicly. Privately, daughter's got to come home and have some wisdom teeth out. So definitely looking forward to that.
Fun. I've got a wisdom tooth poking through as well. And it's been coming for a while. And if I'm honest, it hurts a lot. I'm just putting it off because all the other things that have hurt have gone away eventually. So that probably will as well.
Yeah. No, EJ does make the point. I do play with the New York City Ska Orchestra. We do tend to have open rehearsals Monday nights at Washington and Dean Street at the corner. So if you want to drop by there, if you're local, come say hi.
Thank you very much to Matt and Scott. Thank you to you guys as well. I don't know if you could hear, but I was struggling with a little bit of a cold because the kids have gone and picked up every scummy virus they can from their school. But thankfully, we've had these guys on hand to give great opinions with their fantastic and fine voices. We'll see you next for our Baku Grand Prix race review. Until we see you next, work hard, be kind, and have fun. This was Missed Apex Podcast. I survived. With the help of drugs. Legal drugs, Scott. One's from the pharmacy. Mostly. Subscribe. Please subscribe. Like and subscribe. Sorry, I accidentally flashed you guys up on screen there. We can wait. Should we wave?